Hi there, welcome to Fantasy Hub. I'm Mia, your storyteller. Today's story is filled with heartache, discovery, and a twist you won't see coming. So let's begin.
You know that feeling when you're drowning, but you're so used to the water that you don't even realize you can't breathe anymore? That was me 3 months ago. Sitting in that nearly empty movie theater at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, stress eating buttered popcorn like it was going to save my failing cafe from bankruptcy. I'd chosen the most depressing horror film I could find, something about possessed dolls, because honestly, my life felt scarier than anything Hollywood could conjure up. The theater was practically a ghost town. Just me and elderly couple in the front row, and the teenage employee who kept checking his phone. I had my usual spot picked out back row, aisle seat, perfect for making a quick escape if the movie got too ridiculous or if my anxiety got the better of me. I was settling in, already regretting my choice of entertainment when she appeared. "Excuse me, is anyone sitting here?" I looked up to find this woman and God. She was stunning in that effortless way that makes you simultaneously want to hate someone and ask for their skincare routine. Messy blonde hair that somehow looked intentionally tousled, wearing a vintage leather jacket over a simple white tee, and these eyes. I swear they were the color of honey when the light hit them just right. "It's a pretty empty theater," I said, gesturing to the sea of vacant red velvet seats around us. "Take your pick." But instead of moving to a more reasonable distance, No, the unspoken movie theater rule of at least 2 seats between strangers, she slid right into the chair next to mine. Our elbows immediately bumped as she settled in, and I felt this little spark of electricity that I tried very hard to ignore. "Sorry," she whispered, not looking sorry at all. In fact, she was grinning. "I'm Danielle, by the way." "Nora," I replied, trying to focus on the opening credits that were starting to roll. But then she leaned over close enough that I could smell her perfume, something warm and slightly spicy, and said, "You know this is a horror movie, right? You're supposed to look scared, not devastated." I turned to glare at her, ready with some sarcastic comeback about minding her own business. But she was already reaching into my popcorn bucket, stealing a handful like we'd been friends for years. The audacity should have annoyed me. Instead, I found myself fighting back a smile. "Having a rough week?" she asked, settling back with my stolen popcorn. "Rough year, actually." The honesty slipped out before I could stop it. Maybe it was the darkness of the theater, or the fact that she was a complete stranger, but something about her made me want to spill everything. "My coffee shop is hemorrhaging money. My ex-girlfriend cleaned out our joint savings account before she left town with her yoga instructor. And I just spent my last $40 on movie theater snacks and a ticket to watch Creepy Dolls Murder." "People," Danielle nodded seriously, as if this was the most normal conversation starter in the world. "Sounds like you need better entertainment. Want to ditch this and find somewhere that serves decent coffee?" "I know a place. I own a coffee shop," I said flatly. "Even better. You can critique my taste while I buy you a drink somewhere that isn't your failing business." The casual way she said it, acknowledging my situation without pity or awkward consolation, made me actually laugh for the first time in weeks. "You're incredibly rude, you know that? It's one of my most charming qualities." We ended up staying for the entire movie, and it turned out to be one of those films that's so bad it becomes entertaining. Danielle provided running commentary. That had me trying not to laugh out loud during the scary parts. When the possessed doll finally got its comeuppance in a microwave, don't ask, she leaned over and whispered, "That's going to be a bitch to clean." By the time we stumbled out of the theater, it was pouring rain. The kind of sudden downpour that Seattle is famous for, turning the streets into rivers and sending everyone scrambling for cover. Danielle pulled out this massive umbrella, the kind your grandmother would carry, and held it over both of us. "Where's your car?" she asked, having to raise her voice over the sound of rain hammering against the umbrella fabric. I walked. Bad financial decisions extend to parking fees too. "Come on," she said, and suddenly we were pressed together. Under that umbrella, her shoulder warm against mine as we navigated the slick sidewalks. Every few steps, she'd adjust her grip and her fingers would brush against mine on the umbrella handle. Such a small thing, but it sent these little jolts of awareness through me that I hadn't felt in God, maybe ever. "This is me," I said. When we reached the corner where my little studio apartment sat above Mrs. Chun's dry cleaning shop, the neon sign cast everything in pink and blue shadows, making the rain look like liquid neon. "Cute neighborhood," Danielle said, though we both knew it was a lie. My block was the kind of place where gentrification hadn't quite reached yet, which meant affordable rent and questionable night sounds. We stood there for a moment, both of us getting gradually more soaked despite the umbrella, and I found myself not wanting the evening to end. When was the last time I'd enjoyed someone's company this much? When had I last felt this spark of possibility? "My cafe is just a few blocks over on Pine Street," I heard myself saying, nook and cranny. "If you're ever in the neighborhood and want that coffee critique session." "Tomorrow morning," she said immediately. "What time do you open?" 7. "I'll be there at 7:15. I like to give new places a few minutes to get their rhythm going. And then, before I could process what was happening, she leaned in and pressed a quick kiss to my cheek. Her lips were soft and warm against my rain-cooled skin, and she smelled like that spicy perfume and something else, something like possibility. "Thanks for making that terrible movie bearable, Nora." She handed me the umbrella and jogged away into the rain, leaving me standing there like an idiot, touching my cheek and watching her disappear around the corner. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying every moment of our conversation, analyzing every look and touch and laugh. By 6 a.m., I was at the cafe, deep cleaning everything I'd already cleaned the night before and mentally rehearsing casual conversation starters. What if she didn't show up? What if she did show up at the spark I'd felt was entirely one-sided? What if the bell above the door chimed at exactly 7:15? "You're here," I said, trying to sound casual instead of relieved. I said I would be. Danielle looked around the cafe, taking in the mismatched vintage furniture I collected from thrift stores, the local art covering the walls, the plants hanging in every available corner. "This place is incredible, Nora. How are you not packed?" "Location, mostly. We're not exactly on the main strip." I moved behind the counter, grateful to have something to do with my hands. "What can I make you? Surprise me." So I made her my signature drink, the one I'd been perfecting for 2 years, but had never put on the menu, because it seemed too personal somehow. A cortado with house-made vanilla syrup, a touch of cinnamon, and beans from a small roaster in Portland who shipped directly to micro businesses like mine. She took a sip, closed her eyes, and made this little sound of pleasure that did absolutely inappropriate things to my concentration. "Okay, that's fucking amazing," she said. "What do you call it?" "I don't. It's just something I make for myself sometimes. Well, it needs a name. And it needs to be on your menu." She took another sip, studying me over the rim of the cup. "You're hiding your best work, aren't you?" Before I could answer, my regular morning rush came in all 6 of them. Mrs. Patterson from the bookstore next door, ordering her usual black coffee with exactly 1 sugar cube. James from the law office, who wanted a triple shot Americano. And yesterday's newspaper, the couple from the apartment complex, splitting a pastry and whispering to each other like they were planning something scandalous. Danielle watched me work, and I found myself hyper-aware of her attention. The way she tracked my movements as I steamed milk, how she smiled when I remembered each customer's order without asking. When the mini rush died down, she was still there, now reading a book she'd pulled from her bag. "Don't you have work?" I asked. "I'm a freelance photographer. My schedule is flexible." She looked up from her book, something about traveling through Eastern Europe. "Plus, I'm conducting important research. Research? On why this place isn't packed every morning. Because Nora, that coffee is art. And that became our routine. Every morning at 7:15, Danielle would appear. She'd order something different. Each time, always with increasingly ridiculous specifications, but I was pretty sure she made up on the spot just to make me laugh. "Today, I'll take a half calf, oat milk, extra foam, but only if it's made by the grumpy owner. I'm not grumpy." "You're a little grumpy, it's endearing." Or, "Can you make me something that tastes like autumn feels in a small town?" So I'd make her a maple latte with a dash of nutmeg, and she'd take that first sip and look at me like I'd performed magic. The hurt underneath the anger. Is that what this has been about? Getting material for your anonymous critic persona? No, that's not what you think. Then what is it, Nora? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been playing me from the beginning. The worst part was that I couldn't deny it entirely. Not the part about using her words, because I had, even if my intentions weren't what she thought. And not the part about the secret account, because that was obviously true. All I could do was stand there while the woman I was falling in love with looked at me like I was a stranger. "I wasn't using you," I said quietly, aware that everyone in the cafe was listening. "The account was just supposed to help small businesses. You never meant to get caught." She grabbed her phone and headed for the door. The bell rang as she left, and the sound felt like a death knell. I didn't see her for 2 weeks. The mystery coffee critic account had exploded in popularity, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I'd gotten what I wanted: increased foot traffic, new customers, enough buzz to maybe actually save my business. But none of it mattered without Danielle's morning visits, her ridiculous drink orders, her laugh echoing from the corner table. I deleted the account, posted a final message explaining that the critic was taking an indefinite hiatus to focus on other projects, then deactivated everything. Sam thought I'd lost my mind. "Nora, you had 50,000 followers. Do you know what most businesses would pay for that kind of reach?" "I don't care about the reach," I said, restocking cups for the third time that hour just to have something to do with my hands. "Is this about Danielle?" "Everything is about Danielle." I spent those 2 weeks scrolling through her actual Instagram at Danielle Kipscher's. I'd somehow never looked at before. It was full of incredible photography from all over the world. Sunset shots from a beach in Thailand, street art from Berlin, northern lights over some remote Icelandic landscape. She was clearly successful, clearly talented, clearly someone who could go anywhere and do anything, which made me wonder, again, why she'd chosen to spend her mornings in my tiny, struggling cafe. Had it all been research for her? Some sort of anthropological study of small business owners? Or maybe she really had just been bored looking for entertainment, and I'd been convenient. But then I'd remember the way she'd kissed me in that stockroom, the intensity in her eyes, the way she'd whispered my name like it meant something. That hadn't felt like research. I was in the middle of this spiral of self-doubt when she came back. It was a Tuesday morning, right at the tail end of the breakfast rush. I was behind the counter, trying to perfect a new drink recipe, something with cardamom and brown butter that I'd been experimenting with when the bell chimed. I looked up, expecting to see Mrs. Patterson or one of the other regulars, and instead found Danielle standing in the doorway. She looked different somehow, more serious, like she'd been thinking as hard as I had over the past 2 weeks. wasn't alone. She was carrying a large portfolio case and what looked like a business proposal folder. Nora, she said, nodding to Sam, who was pretending not to eavesdrop from behind the pastry case. Do you have a few minutes to talk? My mouth went dry. Of course. She walked to the counter and set down the folder, but she didn't look at me, not directly. I've been doing some thinking, she said, about what you said, about why you started that Instagram account. Danielle, I'm so sorry. I should have let me finish. She looked up then, and I could see that she'd been just as miserable as I had been. I looked into your business, your finances. This place really is struggling, isn't it? I felt heat rise in my cheeks. I don't need pity. It's not pity, it's understanding. She opened the folder and turned it toward me. I've been working on something, a proposal. The first page was a business plan, professionally formatted with charts and projections. The header read, Nook and Bean, a traveling coffee experience. I don't understand, I said. Keep reading. I flipped through the pages, trying to process what I was seeing. Market analysis for mobile coffee services. Projected costs for converting a food truck. Revenue estimates for bringing specialty coffee to events, farmers markets, festivals. You want to turn my cafe into a food truck? Not just any food truck. A coffee and photography book mobile. We'd serve your incredible drinks, and I'd photograph the customers, document their stories. Create a traveling exhibition of the people who make each city unique. She paused, watching my face carefully. I want to be your business partner. Nora, your real partner. I stared at the proposal, my mind reeling. But you travel all the time. Your photography has been making me miserable for months, she said quietly. All those amazing places, and I've been shooting them alone. Do you know what I've realized these past 2 weeks? The best photos I've taken all year were candid shots of you working here in the cafe, you making coffee like it's an art form, you talking to customers like they matter, you being brilliant and passionate and completely unaware of how incredible you are. She reached across the counter and touched my hand, just her fingertips against mine. I don't want to be your secret, Nora. I want to be your partner. In business and life and whatever comes next. I felt tears starting to build behind my eyes. I hurt you. I used your words without permission. You did, and I was angry. But then I realized you used my words because they mattered to you. Because they captured something true about what we were building here. She squeezed my fingers. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose us. Us, I whispered. If there still is an us. If you're willing to take a risk on something bigger than either of us planned. I looked down at the business plan, at the photographs she clipped to the back pages. Pictures of me I hadn't even known she was taking. Me laughing at something Sam had said. Me concentrating on a latte art. Design. Me looking out the window during a quiet afternoon, sunlight catching in my hair. In every single photo, I looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy in a way I hadn't seen myself in years. The book mobile, I said. We'd travel together. We'd travel together, set up at different locations. Bring great coffee to people who might not otherwise get to experience it. And I'd document the whole journey. The places, the people, the stories they share over the perfect cup. It sounds... I paused, trying to find the right words. Terrifying and amazing. The best things usually are. I looked up at her then. This woman who'd walked into my life during a terrible horror movie and somehow made everything better. Who'd seen through my carefully constructed walls and decided I was worth fighting for. Who was standing here offering me not just a second chance, but a complete reimagining of what our future could look like. There's one condition, I said. Her face fell slightly. What's that? Instead of answering with words, I walked around the counter, took her face in my hands, and kissed her. Right there in front of everyone, Mrs. Patterson nearly dropped her. Crossword puzzle. James choked on his Americano. Sam whooped from behind the pastry case. When we broke apart, both of us breathing hard, I pressed my forehead against hers. The condition is that we do this together, really together. No more secrets, no more anonymous accounts, no more hiding. She smiled then, the first real smile I'd seen from her since that awful morning 2 weeks ago. I can live with that condition. Good, because I'm pretty sure I'm falling in love with you and I don't want to do it alone. Pretty sure? She teased. Okay, completely certain. Head over heels, can't sleep, write terrible poetry about your eyes certain. You write poetry about my eyes? Terrible poetry? I'm much better with coffee than with words. I'll have to be the judge of that. 6 months later, we were parked at Golden Gardens during the sunset golden hour, our converted Airstream serving coffee to beachgoers and evening joggers. The bookmobile was painted deep blue with silver lettering, and Danielle had designed a logo that somehow perfectly captured both the wandering spirit of our business and the cozy intimacy of a good cup of coffee. Our chalkboard menu that day read, "Tell us your story. We'll make you the perfect cup." It had become our signature approach. Instead of a standard menu, we'd listen to customers talk about their day, their dreams, their heartbreaks, and then create a drink that somehow captured their essence. The businessman stressed about a presentation got a double shot cortado with a touch of vanilla comfort with a caffeine kick. The college student homesick for her grandmother's kitchen received a cinnamon dolce latte that made her eyes tear. Up with recognition, Danielle photographed them all with their permission, building a collection she planned to turn into a book about the stories we carry and the ways small rituals, like the perfect cup of coffee, connect us to each other. Business was better than it had ever been at the brick-and-mortar cafe. We were booked solid for festivals and farmers markets through the end of the year, and there was a waiting list of corporate events wanting to hire us for employee appreciation. Days and product launches. But the real magic happened during the quiet moments. Like that evening at Golden Gardens, when the last customer had wandered away and we were cleaning up as the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. I was wiping down the espresso machine when Danielle disappeared into the living area at the back of the Airstream. We'd designed the space to serve double-duty coffee bar during operating hours, cozy home when we were parked for the night. "Nora," she called, "can you come here for a second?" I found her standing by our tiny dining table, which she'd set with our good mugs, the matching set we'd bought at a pottery studio in Bellingham, and what looked like affogatos. Vanilla ice cream drowning in perfectly pulled espresso shots. "What's this for?" I asked. Instead of answering, she pulled a small velvet box from her pocket and placed it next to one of the mugs. My heart stopped. Danielle open it. Inside was a ring, but not the traditional kind. It was a tiny silver espresso cup, complete with a microscopic handle and a small diamond where the foam would be. "It's ridiculous," she said quickly. Suddenly nervous. I know it's ridiculous. But I saw it in this little jewelry shop in Fremont, and it made me think of that first morning when you made me that perfect cortado, and how I knew right then that I wanted to spend every morning for the rest of my life watching you create something beautiful. I was crying. Full on, mascara running, can't catch my breath crying. "Is that a yes?" she asked hopefully. "That's a yes to everything," I managed to say. Yes to the ring, yes to forever, yes to making coffee and capturing stories and building this incredible life we've somehow stumbled into. Yes to stealing your popcorn at terrible movies, especially yes to that. She slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, of course, and then we were kissing as the last light faded from the sky outside our windows. Later, as we lay curled together in our converted bed, listening to the sound of waves against the shore, I thought about how this had all started. That night in the movie theater when I was convinced my life was falling apart, when I couldn't see any way forward that didn't involve failure and heartbreak. I've been so focused on what I was losing that I hadn't been able to see what I was about to gain. This partnership that was so much more than I'd ever imagined possible. This love that felt like coming home and setting off on an adventure at the same time. What are you thinking about? Danielle asked sleepily, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on my collarbone. Just, everyone thought we were just friends, at the cafe. They saw us flirting and laughing and spending time together, but they didn't understand what was really happening. What was really happening? We were building something. This whole elaborate creation made of inside jokes and perfect coffee in the way. You'd look at me when you thought I wasn't paying attention. All those secret touches, the shared dreams, the way you still steal my coffee every morning. I do not steal your coffee. You absolutely steal my coffee. Yesterday, you ordered an oat milk latte and then drank half of my cortado. That's not stealing. That's sharing. That's theft of caffeinated beverages. She laughed, and the sound vibrated through her chest where my head was resting. So what you're saying is we've got VIP service in the romance department, premium membership, top shelf. The works. Good, she said, pressing a kiss to the top of my head, because I'd plan on being a very loyal customer. Outside, I could hear the ocean continuing its eternal conversation with the shore. Tomorrow, we'd drive to a new location, set up our little cafe, meet new people with new stories to tell. We'd serve them coffee that would hopefully make their day a little brighter, and Danielle would capture moments of connection and joy through her lens. But tonight, we were exactly where we belonged, in our traveling home, in each other's arms, surrounded by the smell of coffee beans and the promise of adventures yet to come. This is our love story. It started with terrible horror movies and stolen popcorn, grew into something real over perfectly crafted lattes, survived the kind of misunderstanding that could have ended everything, and became this beautiful, complicated, absolutely perfect life we've built together. Everyone thought we were just friends. But this is our VIP service.